Well, welcome to a panel discussion on digitalization, building a resilient healthcare and pharma enterprise. The resulting uncertain conditions due to the pandemic has put the healthcare and pharma industry on hyperdrive mode. This is the only industry that is having to cater to demand and adapt to the changing consumer and market conditions on a regular basis. This session will explore how emerging technologies can help in providing solutions by weaving resilience against future shocks. This discussion will also bring perspective on how organizations in this sector are embracing digital transformation to enhance customer experience for the coming years. Some of our key discussion points: leveraging digital to enhance health outcomes and patient experiences, championing change within the organization towards a digital future, driving digital innovation capabilities through partnerships, and reimagining a hybrid commercialization model in the new normal. And now I invite our eminent panel members. Atanu Roy, Group CIO Biocon, welcome, sir. Dr. Avadhut Chandrakant Parab, Global CIO Walkart. Kaushal Shetty, Head of Digital and Technology, Global Medical, Pfizer Upjohn. Parvatam Subaya, R&D IT Director, AstraZeneca. Sreeji Gopinathan, CIO Lupin. And to moderate this panel discussion, I invite Dr. Jaydev Rajpal, Partner, McKinsey & Company. So thank you so much to all our eminent panelists for joining us, and I hand over to you, Dr. Rajpal.
Thank you, Deepti, and a very warm welcome to the fellow panelists. In this session, we will discuss and debate the application of digitization, automation, Industry 4.0, including advanced analytics in healthcare and pharma. As Deepti, you mentioned, in the last 18 months, the world has grappled with the largest health and economic crisis in the recent history. And these events have put healthcare and pharma industry squarely at the center of attention. They have also highlighted the need for adoption of digital transformation. However, if we look at the industry as such, in pharma, as a sector, it has lagged other industries in the past. An assessment that was conducted on Digital Quotient that showed that this sector was about 8% behind average. But the pace of change is accelerating, as one of the examples show that if you look at the advanced World Economic Forum Lighthouse as accredited by the World Economic Forum, what we see is that there are 8 out of the 54 sites have now been shown as lighthouse for digital adoption in this industry. Many of my fellow panelists are now introducing advanced technologies, automating and digitizing process, and we look forward to learning from the experience of this panel. Perhaps I can start this session by asking all of you on how you see healthcare and pharma sector leveraging data and tech for digital transformation. And Atanu, if it's okay, if I start with you to get your point of view, and perhaps in the next 2-3 minutes, you share how you're seeing this change, and then we can go around the room with Avadhut, Param, Kaushal, and then Sreeji. Atanu?
Jaydev, actually, I agree with you. Pharma industry per se has been a laggard compared to many other industries in adoption of digital technologies, particularly in India. But however, that is changing, and the pharma industry is leapfrogging. One of the drivers, as I see it, it started with more from a compliance as a driver for digitization, where data integrity was the initial driver, and that led to significant amount of digitization in the shop floor, quality, manufacturing, operations function. However, that is now morphing into getting into more of Industry 4.0, where having a connected manufacturing, a connected supply chain, the IT OT integration is leading to actually all operations, right from warehouse, the incoming raw material to the FG dispatches, the entire shop floor getting digitized, the operations and the information technology layer, the plethora of sensors everywhere. So we are seeing that happening. this mass scale digitization. And with all the data coming in, it is also leading to significant amount of analytics, which is helping in providing good insights, improving yield, productivity, getting quality first time right, all these aspects. At the same time, from R&D to scale up and bringing it to manufacturing, I see digitization and analytics playing a role in getting those exhibit batches and the scale up being done much better, and helping in drug discovery in R&D, as well as effective clinical trials in a hybrid model. Having said that, while we are having a huge amount of integration and the IT/OT thing coming in, there are challenges in integrating all these data, plus significant amount of risks on cyber security and data leakage, which needs to be plugged in and thought through.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Atanu. I know you've wonderfully highlighted all the changes that are happening from R&D to operations to quality, and calling out the big risks that that we all have to continuously manage around cybersecurity. So thank you for your opening remarks. Avadut, may I look to you to get your perspectives on how you're seeing this shift happening from your vantage
point. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. I think Atanu has already set the stage. One important thing which is changing is even FDA wants the measurements to be done on a matrices base. So this is one change which we are seeing. Most of the regulator measurements begin that it automatically give boost to analytics part. So that's one area which we see picking up on a big way, whether it is IT, OT, both sides. The second area which is also organization is or the industry is taking advantages. One of the regulatory point of contemporary, any transaction which happens, you record then and there and not delayed recording. In a paper format, it was okay because you never have an audit trail. So this is because of this area, the integration and automation has given another boost to it. So though this was there, but automation. These two areas, I think we have, and of course the third, where you can convert the machine data to a favorable analytics and further takes a decision on it. So digitalization is happening in these three areas, especially pharma is concerned. And the earlier we used to see a risk of only security and in conjunction with the compliance, because the regulators were not so much inclined towards a data-driven organization, but now they are in the new age auditors, and also even that risk of compliance is for the company is also moving out. This is too. Challenge remains still when you talk about digitalization of OT, you need to suddenly talk about connected equipment, connected machines, which are different age. The latest cyber security protocol investment to be done to bring them up. There are different ways, and not only the full capacity, but there are ways and means to do that.
Perhaps I think, Avadut, we are seeing some lag in your video. What I'll do is that while we are able to bring you back, maybe
Am I audible now, or there's a problem?
Yeah, there's a little bit of lag. I think we heard most of it, but
am I audible?
It is better. It is better.
Or there's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe why don't I ask?
This has another challenge of when you are integrating
Yes, I think there is some, I think he's probably facing some tech issues for the moment. But Uttam, can I switch gears to you for a minute? You heard two of our panelists describe the shifts that they are seeing, right? The underlying, what's happening with regulators, what's happening from R&D to operations to quality, right? In your perspective, how do you see it, and how does the digital transformation look from your vantage point?
Not very different from what we just heard from Atnu and Dr. Avdut. I think they pretty much nailed the omnipresence of digital in the end-to-end pharma value chain. What I would like to add on there is more in terms of a key opportunity that's in front of us, which I believe is collaboration. And by that, I mean the opportunity for pharma organizations, for example, to very actively collaborate with multiple other entities, healthcare institutes, for example, right, where there's the opportunity to for a data exchange and leveraging much richer data that is already present there, of course, within the norms of what privacy and regulations demand. But there's definitely that opportunity there. With academia, right, where we have the opportunity for scientific knowledge exchange and a much deeper collaboration, right, to tap into and supplement the expertise of what organizations can offer and what academia can offer. Partnerships with technology organizations, both from a perspective of looking at products which can come in to aid digital solutions to meet our therapeutic needs or any other digital solution in the value chain, and potentially also alliances with technology partners which bring in state-of-the-art and cutting-edge technologies to bear to enable us in the transformation journey. So the entire ecosystem, right, of tapping into this to enable collaboration is a great opportunity that's lying ahead of us like never before in the past. And I would also add, I wouldn't call it a challenge, but what I would label more as a very essential ingredient is a strong digital strategy, right, that each of us as an enterprise need to have in order for us to be able to traverse through this transformation journey very effectively.
Thank you, Parvatam. I think you indeed highlighted a collaboration and alliances, including with academia, as an important point as we look ahead, and the role of digital strategy as we set ourselves for future transformation. One of the things that you just mentioned was about the product, and perhaps just a little later today, we would have a conversation about how we could use digital tech and automation to develop better and faster products. So perhaps a little bit later today in the discussion. Maybe Kaushal, if I turn to you and get your views on how you're seeing the digital transformation in pharma and healthcare sector.
Thank you, Jaydev. And my fellow participants have also talked about areas that are accurate. I would like to talk about something different around new opportunities that how the pharma industry can leverage big data and digital transformation. And I'll talk about two examples that come to mind. So with the advent of big data, there is the advent of this new real-world data and real-world evidence science, which is essentially data related to patient health status and delivery of healthcare in the real-world settings. And it is typically sourced from patient surveys, clinical trials, and studies that you conduct. As an organization, it allows you a better understanding of how your drug is performing outside the typical realm of a controlled clinical environment that you may have tested your product at. But how does it perform in the real world? And it gives you insights around what is working well, what isn't working well, and allows you to continuously evolve your product and make them better for the larger patient population as time goes by. The other example is the advent of a new technology called digital therapeutics, which is using digital as a means of therapy for treating diseases. And a fantastic example of that is in the mental health space, which has traditionally been a very difficult area for patients to seek help on due to the perceived taboo that surrounds that particular topic. And what digital therapies has done is that opened the possibility of patients having consultations with their therapist virtually and anonymously from the safety of their homes without being judged. And these continuously on platforms can also provide recurring assistance in the form of mood calculators, mood builders. There's even the use of AI, although which is at a very nascent stage, that can make accurate assessments of your mood and provide feedback and insights to you and your caregivers. So in these two examples, I think there are new opportunities that have sprung up, which we may not have seen in the years past, which are very interesting, very interesting for us to look at. And from a challenges perspective, obviously with the advent of new technology, data privacy becomes a major concern for us to address. And again, I wouldn't call it a concern. I think it is something that from a regulation standpoint, we need to look at how do we address that, because these technologies are here to stay. These new opportunities are here to stay. And we just need to make sure that our regulations are fine-tuned for us to be able to leverage them and still stay true to the privacy norms that require.
Thank you, Kaushal. I think it's thank you for highlighting the two wonderful new opportunities for using RWE, real world evidence, and digital therapeutics. And your caution and the challenge around data privacy is very timely, right? What we do is we will, we just go to Sreeji and then turn back to you and talk about some more examples and applications in the customer context and the patient context. But Sreeji, I know it's not easy coming in last, but perhaps over to you to learn your perspective on how you see this.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I think, I think my fellow panelist has covered pretty much the entire realm of opportunities and challenges which is out there. So what I would like to add a little bit to what Kaushal was saying, there is quite some service-based opportunities which is sort of evolving. If you really look at it in terms of what are the new propositions that technology can bring to the foray. Yeah, so basically, if you really look at it, it could be, it's starting to be seen as well, like AI-enabled service propositions from a patient care point of view, in terms of accuracy of the treatment protocols, how it is being administered. Is there a need for picking up early signals before it becomes a real issue for the patient? That kind of propositioning is possible. And, this is where healthcare and the pharma sector can actually work together in terms of understanding what the adjacencies could be, so that, we can put the patient in the center of, this thought process and design solutions around that. So simple things like, we all have smartphones, right? More than 50% of the people around the world has smartphones now, and we all do some kind of exercises through different apps and solutions. And this is generating tons of data. And if we can really look at what can be done using that data, simple things like, oxygen monitoring and all those things are happening already, but there can be service proposition created around this. So this is I think a huge opportunity. And then I think you can also look at, in addition to the internal opportunities like that the pharma companies can have in terms of improving the processes, efficiencies, outputs, and all those things. You can also look at reducing the overall cost of healthcare in different economies, by using predictive analytics to prevent patients coming to the hospitals and take corrective actions before that need arises. So this is a huge challenge across multiple economies, even in markets like US. In India, of course, our healthcare spend is very low compared to most of the other advanced economies. We're probably spending like 1 or 2% of our GDP, whereas advanced economies have 15%, 17, 20% spending. So cost reduction and capacity management is going to be a huge issue, especially in our current scenarios. So there, leveraging the power of data to create any efficiencies is going to be hugely welcome by the government as well as by the private entities. If you come to the challenges, apart from what has been already said, I would say two things. One is in terms of the capabilities that is needed to make all these things happen, I think we do have a shortage in the market to really get the right people for this in terms of data science and data engineering. This is a huge area where we need a lot more quality capabilities to be built. It is not possible to source all the time because it is not there out there in terms of the volumes all of us need. So hence we need to invest in terms of building the capabilities to a great extent, identifying and building. So that's one. Second is, as a technology practitioners, we all have a great opportunity to really become real business value adders, and hence identifying the right use cases which will bring the right outcomes for business is going to make or break your venture in your organization. So this is also another challenge which we have to tread very carefully by partnering with the leadership and the right stakeholders to make sure that we're getting this right from the beginning.
No, thank you, Sreeji. Thank you so much. Indeed, both Kaushal and you have started to touch upon an important aspect of this, which is serving the patient, right? Which is serving the patient and our customers with other healthcare providers, right? One of the big things we see today is that there is an application of data, automation, technology in if I may use the word front end for a minute, right? Including rise of healthcare ecosystems both in India as well as globally, right? So if I may just turn to you, Kaushal, for a minute, and then over to you, Sreeji, for a few quick thoughts on how do you see the digital transformation shaping patient service delivery of future? And one essential component is how can we assure that we are able to personalize experience for them so that they can trust what we are doing for them, right? So perhaps, Kaushal, a few thoughts from you, and then over to you, Sreeji.
Sure. Thank you, Jaydev. I think huge strides have been made in the digital space when it comes to what I would call customer facing, and you could see that this is the effect of what the customer and our consumers expect as an experience. Today, all of us interact with the likes of the Amazons of the world from a retail standpoint, and somehow the expectation is that most of our online interaction will be of a similar experience, even when it comes to healthcare. So this has led to the advent of digital ecosystems, kind of a one-stop shop for all of your healthcare needs provided on a single, intuitive, multi-channel platform. Right? This has also led to a better understanding of what we are now calling our customer journey. I think Sreeji talked a little bit about that before. Essentially, how he traverses your ecosystem, what touch points does he have within it, and how you can continue to enrich his experience while he's on your platform. And again, talking about examples, a fantastic example that came into prominence was the telemedicine platform. Now, from a technology standpoint, remote meeting and assessment of patients has existed as a technology for a while. But the COVID restrictions that we went through has really ramped up the need and the implementation of that across the industry. So today you're able to seek a highly rated doctor, schedule an appointment with that doctor at your convenient time, consult with that doctor, get an e-prescription written for you, and then have your medicines delivered to you the next day at your doorstep through an e-pharmacy. So this is a use case that's worked really well during our COVID times. But then such ecosystems will continue to evolve, continue to get bigger as they look to add more and more therapy areas and disease areas that they can cover. This will eventually also lead into something called brand recognition and customer loyalty through customer retention programs that will be run. And of course, with the popularity of wearable and fitness bands, you could envision a future where a connected health ecosystem exists, where your vitals are being tracked and monitored on a daily basis. You're getting reminders for your medication. There are alerts when your blood pressure or your cholesterol reaches its outer limits. Essentially, the possibilities of that are endless. I think eventually these ecosystems will continue to evolve and continue to become more about lifestyle and health management, more a continuous service that's being provided to the outside consumer rather than a point-in-time illness management like they are today. Right? So they will continue to get more personalized and tailored through the advent of AI and machine learning, and they'll start getting more and more intelligent, more and more tailored towards your personal need rather than a generic solution. And actually, if you take a step back and look carefully, we're essentially building an Amazon-like ecosystem for healthcare, a personalized lifestyle management platform that continues to learn and continues to get better as the more it interacts with you. So the technology, like I said, has always been there, but the implementation of that technology and the drive behind that, I think that those things are very exciting when it comes to from personal perspective.
No, thank you, Kaushal. It is indeed very exciting, as you said, as we move towards more personalization, beyond pill, continuous service, and building a lifestyle management ecosystem. Now, I think it's indeed very exciting. Sreeji, any additional thoughts as we think of patients at the center and how this is transforming our journey?
Yeah. So I think while we work on patient, doctor, medical rep, all those people to be in the center of this ecosystem and create a mechanism to have a 360-degree view of all these different stakeholders so that they can do their job properly. If I may fast forward, let's say a couple of years from now and look at what are the things that is being worked on, what we might see is also a little bit more advanced way of managing and delivering medical care. So something like precision medicine, for example, so what usually is being done as a lot of development and research work as of now is using techniques like pattern recognition, where a good example which comes up in a lot of the material which is out there is one of the deadly diseases that we have, like cancer. It has been a one-size-fits-all kind of treatment in the past, which is getting better now in terms of targeting the treatment. But the precision medicine type of technologies, where there is a lot of advanced analytics and pattern recognition techniques which will be used, will help even go to a level of using looking at your individual lifestyle and genetic makeup, and then target the treatment protocols accordingly. So you can see the power of data here playing in terms of really looking at how do I really put this specific patient in the center of care. So that kind of work is going on, and I think it is already being looked at and practiced in pockets, which I think is going to really become bigger. Another interesting area is, we rely on, the system relies on the human eye or the capability of a radiologist to make a specific diagnosis based on medical imaging techniques that we have at this point in time. There is a huge amount of work happening in this space in terms of probably spotting which the human eye doesn't see, and pick up signals early enough for any interventions that can be out there. So there's tons of work in multiple areas like this happening. But coming back to the Amazon type of experience in this area, I think it has to be a lot more carefully managed. We all know the journey that went through when we got recommendations, in terms based on our browser behavior. Sometimes, I used to even get female oriented things pushed to me because I have searched for my wife once. Yeah. So it has to be very carefully managed in this case, because you don't want to really go down that path and irritate and misguide the patient who is the customer here. So that journey will happen here, but it will have to be a lot more carefully managed is what I think. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think what you're referring to is that you have to carefully manage the journey of evolution as we move forward toward more personalization. Maybe perhaps we shift gears a little bit to a very, very important part of healthcare and pharma industry, as far as you had started to mention, which is products, right? If I can look to you, so as you see the application of the emerging technologies, data, AI, maybe perhaps even blockchain, how do you see this application in R&D, and what's the implication that you're beginning to see? And Avadhoot, if you're okay, maybe after Parvatam, I can get your thoughts on this topic as well.
Sure, Jaydev. So R&D, again, it's no secret, right? It's a significantly long process, right, in the pharma world, and which involves a pretty high cost. So when I say high cost, it's the industry average is upward of $2 billion, right, before a successful drug can hit the market. And the time period, that lead time we're talking about, is somewhere between 10 to 15 years, typically, right? pre-digital era. So in order for us, our objective is to kind of get drugs fast to the patients, right? And that would mean we may need to take a holistic approach, applying digital along the entire R&D value chain also, right? Not just the overall pharma value chain, but even within the R&D value chain. So I'll give a few examples, right, on how technology is playing an integral part in this space. Enabling digital labs and workplaces for thousands of our scientists, right, through modernized lab equipments and connected devices, which is both allowing them today to perform their scientific experiments remotely, something we didn't even think was possible a few years ago, right, and more efficiently. Yeah, and think about the situation where, you know, an extensive scientific research is typically involved before we can identify a potential drug candidate. Leveraging AI today is enabling us accelerate the process significantly, right? Whether it is molecule identification or synthesis prediction against large data sets, huge data volumes, AI is making it relatively easier for us. Another example I can give is tissue sample analysis that our pathologists typically do. Is made a lot more accurate, efficient, and quick today with the deployment of AI-based solutions. And when we also talk about compound management and compound synthesis, automation and AI have helped us accelerate the iterative cycle, right, which is also a very integral part of the discovery cycle, the design, make, test, and analyze. Iteration is significantly accelerated through the AI and automation solutions that we've been able to deploy. That's in the discovery world. When we move to, for example, trials, right, clinical trials, again, we've touched enough upon patient-centric solutions, but again, the clinical trials is also a key component there. And our objective is to make it as easy for patients to be able to both participate and to be able to live through the clinical trial journey, right, sustain it. Traditionally, patient recruitment and retention have been a challenge, which is now enabled significantly through the use of digital solutions and by way of, say, for example, minimized site visits, high quality data that we are able to collect and manage remotely at the convenience of the participating patients' homes, real-time data collection, real-time monitoring, early warning systems, our ability to predict conditions, right, upfront using predictive algorithms, enabling both caregivers and patients to manage this, to kind of identify potential triggers of certain conditions ahead of time in the trial process and after. All of this is enabled through the use of digital technologies. And we also kind of touched upon digital therapeutics, which is a completely different solution. But in each of these areas, we continue to see technology playing a significant role, right? And also on the regulatory space, patient safety, post-marketing, technologies such as NLP, deep learning, machine learning, have a role to play today, making their footprint across the entire value chain. And all of this is enabled by an underpinning solid data foundation, right? The management of fair and democratized data is extremely critical in a world where we're dealing with data explosion. And a solid data foundation really enables this to happen seamlessly across the entire R&D value chain.
Thank you, Parvatam. I think indeed a wide variety of application across the entire R&D value chain, as you mentioned. Avadhoot, any reflections from you on application of digital tech to R&D?
Yeah, so a few additional points. All of us are aware the R&D process from drug discovery to go to market is fairly a very lengthy process, and on an average we talk about 70 to 80 major gates which the process goes through it. Now there are two concerns. You can't skip any step. You can't the compliance is always on ahead, but as a part, by using a technology, you can bring the efficiency, because there, at every step you have something called a data consolidation, data analysis, and see whether we are going on the right track or not. So the data computing part can really be a fast track today. The one of the area which is really coming up is a simulation part. When you are say, let's say after drug discovery, you are getting into preclinical or clinical trial or kind of test, you can always simulate your product. Today, a lot of I would say instruments or small equipments are available with the artificial intelligence built-in kind of thing. So you don't have to really go far to the field where you really test, and then only you will come to know. Today there are a lot of simulator instruments which are there. It can tell you this is going to work or not, this molecule is going to work or not. So this is one area which has really shortened the complete life cycle. Third point is R&D process by design is an ecosystem process and not a within the four wall it is going to happen. No. So since it is a by design, and earlier it was more of a there was no choice and there was no emerging technology. We are not so much inclined towards the technology of, like, say, blockchain, where it really today helps you to connect your labs, because not everything you can do in one lab. You have multiple labs through which you do, or when you're carrying out the clinical trials, you will get into multiple countries. So can you create a because first fundamental is you have a distributed ledger, you need a traceability to happen, and you should be able to track what is happening. With these three as a prerequisites of the data control of the clinical trial, there's a huge scope for blockchain to operate into it, and so that the data collection and the whole trace remains with you, which gives a big confidence to the compliance, and it just shortens the whole cycle. As we move towards the once the clinical trial happens, today's the statistics says that to compile the report, it generally takes anywhere between 6 months to 18 months, sometimes depending upon what molecule it is, the innovator drug or it is a some kind of changes into it. Now this particular part today, we are using lot NLP NLG technologies, and this is nothing new. We have started also using it and it has really crashed the time in months now, from years to months, sometimes from few months to days. So the report generation, which otherwise was a humongous task and people were really struggling for it, that has shortened down. So three things are happening. One is the effectiveness has increased of the process using a technology. Today you don't care about 100 iterations or 200 iterations, because the technology is there to take care of it, shorten the time. Efficiency of the process is higher, and the accuracy has gone up. That has really given a boost to the whole ecosystem of R&D to come out with the product in a shorter period of time, so that even if you have a modified version of the product which you want to take, and you have a shorter part, I would say the period of 17-18 years of your patent, you can grab that opportunity and market the product. So indeed, I would, just to summarize, we have seen artificial intelligence working very well, NLP, NLG going on, automation. So these three areas has benefited along with the blockchain for R&D cycle.
Thank you so much. I think it's indeed, as you mentioned, wide application of many of these technologies. In fact, there were some audience questions around application of advanced analytics, blockchain. So thank you so much for covering that as well. Let me also take a couple of more audience questions as we see. I think the first question is around data security. Now, it's no secret that this is a big topic on everyone's mind. One of the surveys that we saw last year showed that typically more than a 5,000 odd data companies in Asia Pacific region see more than almost 5,000 daily threats, right, for an enterprise. If a detection is delayed by a week, you can see almost greater than $1 million loss each week, right? So these numbers are staggering. If you ask CIOs, more than 3/4 of them will say that the attackers will actually are gaining on them, and their ability to prevent such attacks actually is lessening, or there's a gap between their ability to respond and attackers' prowess is widening, right? So it is indeed a very important and top of the mind topic. Atanu, perhaps I can turn to you to get your perspective on a question that we have received from audience, which talks about how can we ensure that we have the highest level of data safety, data privacy, and user consent are maintained as we deal with data security.
Thanks, Jaidev, for this question. I think this is top of the mind for most of the people who are handling with data today. How do we, while this has been a boon with so much of data coming in, connecting, creating an hyper connected enterprise, and then doing advanced analytics out of it, we have to be very wise in thinking through how much of data we really want to retain, and the inertia and the lethargy which we have is we retain all data, whether we need it or don't need it. Now, there are two things which is broadly happening, actually three things. One is that the cyber attacks, the ransomwares, which can encrypt the data and can paralyze a company's operations. Second threat is the data leakage, whether it could be internally or externally driven. And the third part is, when we go to the patient side of it, is also the personal confidential data which needs to be protected. When we talk of digital therapeutics, or when we create these healthcare platforms. So one of the wise things which people and companies could do is a data retention policy, that how much data we really need to keep. Are we keeping excess data? Because more data we have, more protection we need to do, and it becomes a humongous task. Unless a proper policy is created right up front, it is going to balloon very soon. Not only the hardware and storage cost is going to increase, but the data security overheads is going to explode. So the data retention policy is extremely important, and it needs to be created right up front. The other part is on the data leakage part. And there are, while there are significant amount of attackers and stuff coming up on the data leakage, there are also very interesting technologies which are coming up which can prevent on data leakage, like fingerprinting of data itself, and that those technologies can actually help in preventing data leakage, apart from having a very good ISMS program in place. And then coming to the part of the cyber attack and ransomware and various type of threats which are happening, again, one needs to think through, organizations need to think through a multi-layered approach of protection. And that is what people need to go through. It is very similar to a terrorist attack, where if a country like India has to protect itself from terrorists, you need to have multi-layered approaches. You need to have your, the periphery protected. Then you need to have your the prized and the critical assets protected, your crown jewels protected. So there would be a multi-layered approach. And similarly, your enterprise assets need to be also protected that way. And if there is a threat, how do you detect it fast, respond it fast? So it is a big topic by itself. However, all these three layers needs to be done. And sometimes keeping less amount of assets, digital assets, data asset, it is very counterintuitive, actually helps you from the data protection, because then you know really what are your crown jewels and what is the data you really need, and you protect it properly, rather keeping a hell lot of a data and then you don't know what to do with it.
Oh, thank you, Tanu. I know we're probably in the final minute of our panel discussion, and I am quite sure that we could have continued discussion for several more hours to do justice to this topic. But I want to close this by thanking all the panelists for sharing their thoughts and covering a very wide spectrum, from customers, patients, to R&D, manufacturing, quality, and indeed a very important topic of data security. I do know that we probably haven't answered many of audience's questions, but hopefully in some other forum and some other day, we'd be happy to take some of those as well. So thank you all for joining in today, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was indeed an enriching and informative panel discussion. Thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists. Dear delegates, please join the NetApp booth at the exhibition space and fill the feedback form so that 10 lucky winners will win an opportunity to win amazing Amazon vouchers worth 1,000 rupees each. Coming up is a very interesting session. Do join us there.